Today we are going to be looking at a patron request for I think they called it an MMD Dance World asset. Didn't quite know what that was, but I understood what they were looking for, which was an on interact or trigger area, something like that. It forces an animation to play on an avatar. So I did know how to do that, and it's pretty simple. So this will be released as a free asset, and in the future I will make a premium, much more advanced version. But for learning purposes and tutorial purposes, this one will be completely free for everyone to download for my Patreon. So really all you need is these two built-in components that come with the VR SDK, and then to customize them. So we'll take a look at how it works in action to make sure it's what you're looking for, and then we'll get into the details of how to actually set it up. Okay, so we made it over to our object in game, and if we interact with it, it says force animation, and you can see it starts forcing this ridiculous sprinting animation on our avatar. And if we move, it stops it. Now, this is not an animation that is actually part of our avatar, as you can see. So the animation has nothing to do with what's actually on your avatar. It's totally independent and set up in your world, not on each individual person's avatar, so it will work for everyone. So now that we've seen it, it actually does work, and we can see how it works. Let's take a look at the details behind the scene so you can set it up in your own world. Of course, you could use this as our template, but let's assume you're setting it up from scratch or just are curious about how it works. So we have VRC station. We're going to set player mobility to mobile, uncheck seated, and then you can assign your entry and exit locations. Now, my entry and exit are the same object because I don't need them to be different, which is totally fine. And then here's the super duper important part. You're going to want to assign an animation controller. Now, you might be asking, what the heck is an animation controller? Well, it's essentially a finite state machine, which is incredibly useful to learn, and once you learn it, you'll understand a lot more about how things in general work, not just in VRChat, but even in real life. This is how vending machines and all kinds of other complex objects work. It's just a sample of states that have, well, it's a series of states, and it has to be in one of them. So for our purposes currently, we will only have one, which keeps things very simple, and it's this orange state. So what this says is just play this animation at this speed, so you can speed it up or down. And for the actual animation, you might want to check and take a look at that and make sure it's looping, or maybe you don't want it to loop. You can control that from the actual animation itself. So let's adjust this scenario and assume maybe you have an animation, but no animation controller. Well, they're pretty easy to make and can get complicated, but for something like this, it's incredibly easy. So let's just make a new one by going right click, create. Let's see if we can find animation controller here. We'll call this YouTube demo. You can name yours whatever you want. And you can see it's completely blank. So you'll just right click, create state, empty, and you can leave this as new state, but I recommend naming it something useful. For ours, it's not going to be that useful. We'll just call it YouTube idle. Alright, so we have our state, but now we need an actual animation. So let's find an animation. We'll just call this, we'll look for another, like a sprint. And let's just select this one, which is a forward left. So before we were doing just forward run, this is a forward left sprint. And then if we go back to our object, we are going to want to assign our newly created animation controller to our slot. Now let's go ahead and give this a test in game and make sure it works. So you can see this is really all it takes to do something like this. So what we're expecting as soon as we press this button is a forward left sprint. And as you can see, the character is kind of turning left when they sprint, and that's kind of what we were expecting. So this does work as intended, and that's really all there is, guys. But in the future, I'll be making a much more complicated version of this. Let's talk about some of the things I'm planning on adding already to make this from a free basic asset to something a little more complicated and possibly more useful. So for one, we can dynamically change these enter and exit locations so people aren't all on top of each other when they use this. That's probably pretty useful. Two, we can add a lot more states to our animation controller to create a flow of animations instead of just one looping or non-looping animation. Now, other than that, you're more than welcome to leave a comment below with other features that would be good for this type of object or something you would like to see. And please do leave a comment or a like letting me know if this helped you. And be sure to go check this out. It will be for free on my Patreon, link in the description. And I hope you guys all learned something and have found this as a useful asset for your world. And that's it. Hopefully this gave you a solid start. Whether you're building your first VRChat world or just looking to add more polish to the one you've already got, these little systems can go a long way toward making your world feel interactive and alive. If you want to try this asset out before dropping it into your own project, I've got a public demo world set up. You can jump in, push buttons, test things out, and see exactly how it works in action. I always try to keep the demo world updated with the latest version, so it's a great place to explore and get ideas. And if this video helped you, or if you're using any of my tools in your world, consider supporting me on Patreon. It helps me carve out more time to make these assets, keep them updated, and put together more tutorials like this one. Even a small pledge goes a long way and means a lot. There's a link to both the demo world and the Patreon in the description below, so feel free to check them out. Thanks again for watching, and as always, see you in the next one.